Hi Josh, it's Anthony here. This is the inside of your Atari, which is a 1978 Revision 1 model. There's lots of differences, too many to go into right now. I don't want to be overwhelming, but one of the clear differences is what's called a ribbon cable here, which is part R2101 on the Atari Wong model, which I'm holding here. It actually has part numbers written on them here, which basically connects the motherboard to the switchboard. And you'll see above it says J101, beg your pardon. I think there's a number 2 over here. Yep, so it's J101. Basically, the cable on all 1980 models, no exception, have a female end that's coming from the motherboard that go into a male pin out on the switchboard. You had a male pin out off the motherboard into a female connector. So the motherboards and switchboards from 1978 Sunnyvale models versus a 1980 model aren't interchangeable. So basically you never see Sunnyvale without a male pronged ribbon cable coming off the motherboard. I know this is incredibly nerdy and boring. Yeah, I've just looked at a lot of motherboards. I don't even know, possibly 1,000. And these are the switches that I was telling you about that have a larger chassis here, but they also have closed clasp, I call them, dust protectors here, and they're made from a brass and chrome composite versus an Atari Wong, which I have here. They're basically, the switches are open-ended, and also you can see the chassis is you can't really tell, but the switches on are really flimsy on the Atari Wong models, but also the soldering is it's like a tiny little bit just to make a connection, where on yours, which I'll insert as a picture, the soldering's a lot thicker. So there's signs of quality in terms of just the way they assembled them. Here's an Atari Wong which also has a more of a darker beige switchboard, whereas yours, the Sunnyvale color of the switchboard is different. So I'm going to put those together there so you can noticeably see it's different. A few other differences are things like capacitor type and size, but the spec is the same. They're both 16 volts, but this one on the Sunnyvale is like a thicker barrel. When you're looking at an original Sunnyvale, not all of them have the switches as good as yours. Probably 90% of them do. And these later 1980 switches are just really poor, and I don't know if you can see that, but these become quite corrosive. So the type of chrome is actually thinner on these switches on the 1980 models, and whereas your switch, and there's a reason why I put this to one side as well, which is because it was my keeper, which I call them. There's a reason why I didn't want to sell this one, and I found out another reason why, which you've benefited from, which is it's actually got a top red printed motherboard, which less than 1% have red motherboards. However, I've never actually seen one with a red top printed motherboard and then a green bottom motherboard. So that's been really fascinating. That's why when I said about taking photographs, it's not quite as simple as that with my brain. I have to delve back into older knowledge from when I was doing this prevalently 10 years ago and compare that to my knowledge now. But also, will I learn something new and make a new discovery like I just did then? So this is actually a revision 1. But I actually thought red motherboards only existed on revision B. They just decided to change the prefix. So basically, I thought that red motherboards, as rare as they were revision B, which have a different color Sunnyvale label. It's more of a yellow, where the original Sunnyvale label is the same color. Well, I'll insert that so I don't keep tipping this upside down. But this has got the original felt. Sometimes whilst I'm doing things with these felt pads, some of them actually dissipate and turn into dust. So it's all very well it being completely original, but something like this, you've got to make sure that they don't turn into atoms upon touch. You know, you don't want dissipated foam going into the switch, because then it will be all original, but then the switch won't work. So, and also these are generic pieces of foam, although on 1980 the foam got a little bit thinner. I said I won't go into too much detail because it's overwhelming. And what am I doing? I'm talking about the type of the thinness of the foam. It got a little bit thinner, a little bit flimsier, and these are all 1978 pieces of foam that you can bend without breaking and that aren't turning into dust. But I do have to do that as a test, because if you do that and then they turn into like powder, that's not very good for the switch. And in terms of like maintenance, I've already tested this. I literally put switch cleaner through here on the power switch, through the back of it. It's not a very good aim, don't worry, it won't do any harm. It's just really just to get a bit of dust out of the switch. So it's not like heavy cleaning or anything like that. If you're into antiques and things, I think you want things sympathetically. To avoid the word restored, this hasn't really been restored. It's been sympathetically cleaned. So this actually the label got wet because she only got 3 of the original feet on it, and I only just noticed that, and I'll do an insert of that. So here's your original top, and you'll notice that it's got a pale yellow bezel. These bezels pop out like so. It doesn't have to do it like a magic trick, but basically that's another Sunnyvale identification, is the color of the paint. Now on the here we go, I've got one on the Atari Wong model. The paint is orange, as you can see. So here's an Atari Wong. Let me double check. Yeah, so here's an Atari Wong. That's an Atari Wong label, and as I said before, all the serials start 548, and they don't denote to the console number. As far as the console made, but for the Sunnyvale consoles they do. So I believe that yours, if it says whatever the serial number is, that's the exact number of the console made. Here, the Atari logo, you can feel it on a Sunnyvale, and this has more of an illustrative look, but also the color, and I'll put an insert of the 2 different colors, is a slightly browner on the Sunnyvale model. So this has got a little bit of wear here at the front, but as you said, as long as it's original, it's where the power, TV type and difficulty, the color of that text changes as well. So it's more yellow, of a pale yellow on the Sunnyvale model, where on the 1980 model it's more orange as well. There's lots of variables, but this is the original top. I might have to give it a bit of a once over and a bit of a clean. The bezel kind of pops out, which is quite handy for cleaning it, but you won't have to do that once it's on. So I'll just be giving it a quick clean, but I just wanted to show you a few quick differences. I've checked all the pinouts here on your player 1 and player 2 to make sure that there's no problems there. And I've checked all the connections, and you can hear that. So what you're looking for on a switch. Sorry, this is a bit frustrating with the camera angles. You need to hear this. Let's see if the Hong Kong model is the same. Nope. You hear that? It's almost nothing. There's no clickety click. So that's another thing that frustrates me about the quality of. I like to be able to hear this. Good old switch. You can just feel the quality of the differences in the switches, and no one really talks about it. So you have to be careful when you're putting a cartridge in. Never force a cartridge in, because you'll break the cartridge. I'm talking fast because they're running out of memory. You have to kind of like get a sweet spot before you plug it in. So we always see people wiggling and blowing cartridges out, but that's just how it was. There was sometimes a bit of wiggle. Yeah, so we'll go in, don't worry, just be a bit patient. I haven't completely assembled this as far as all the screws yet, so I've got to put that back in, but that was just a quick check-in with you, just to go over the color differences in the bezel, the switch type, the switch chassis type, also the logo. I think we covered. I might have even gone down some kind of electrolyte capacitor rabbit hole. Oh, and we covered the ribbon cable, the R101, which is inverted later on the Wong models.